Welcome, one and all. This is my second
I'll sit here.
named Jed Talk.
Hi, I'm on
Which I
camera.
realize
This is Joan Talk.
Would you like to talk?
I just wanted to be on the camera.
Well, good for you. It's fame. It's fleeting. Don't worry about it. So it's my, as I say, my second name, Jed Talk. Kim McLean sent me a text this past week about something else, but in the course of it, she apparently she reads our weekly email still, and she just mentioned that she was so sad to miss my Jed Talk, and I assured her she wasn't missing much. So it's quite all right. It's really more of Jed's show and tell.
Oh, but they're fun.
So yeah, there we go.
And we'll Photoshop in some people.
Just making sure that
I'll take shots from the annual meeting and splice them in.
That would be the
Yeah,
helpful
splice
thing.
them in.
So it did occur to me, since this is my show and tell, that I would start maybe with some things I want to show you about what I'm up to in my spare time these days. And I'm going to find most of my links through Facebook at the moment. One of the groups I'm a part of, I don't know if anybody else has even seen this, but on Facebook there are groups, and of course Trinity has a page, and Trinity has a group, and the group doesn't get any activity, but that's just what it is. But there's a general convention of the Episcopal Church group, closed. You have to get permission to become part of it, but they're pretty generous with giving permission. So if you ask, you're generally going to get in. And they have just all sorts of things on there that are sort of geeky Episcopal stuff. It's kind of interesting. There is the prayer book revision group, which is all done up, I see, for Mardi Gras. That's new.
And
That
there's
part's-
a group of people who want to make it gender inclusive.
Well, that's one of the questions that's come up. I think that's probably a link. I saw Mary Ann Budd's name. She's the Bishop of Washington. I'm guessing this is about, or would include some information about that. The Diocese of Washington at their General Convention. And I haven't looked at it enough to know what they're really saying, but they're calling for us to talk about language and how we refer to God at the next revision of the prayer book. I don't know what exactly they adopted, and so I don't really want to speak to it too much, but it is, I could have told you well in advance, one of the issues before us is how do we talk about God? For what little it's worth, and that's worth something. One of the most famous, maybe the most famous theologian, second famous, of the 20th, Protestant theologians of the 20th century would be Paul Tillich. And Paul Tillich, 50 years ago probably, said that we ought to just get rid of the word God for about 1,000 years, because it is so loaded with baggage that doesn't help us anymore. And he said that again probably 50 years ago. So, of course, how we talk about God is going to be an issue with the next prayer book revision. That's the General Convention page. The prayer book page has, this is the unofficial page, and they're talking about what's coming up. Here's a thought on the Pope's updating of the Lord's Prayer. If you haven't heard about that, so Episcopalians are talking about it too. It's not actually all that dramatic what the Pope is proposing. So there's that. This is one of my most recent discoveries is High Church Coyote, which is described as the Episcopal Church welcomes you to the happiest place on Facebook. And they rather earnestly try to be humorous. And they usually succeed. But they do have serious stuff on there too. So that's more humorous than anything else. But somebody, what?
What was that?
If you love someone, set them free. If you hate someone, set them free. Basically, set everyone free and get a dog. People are stupid. That's a little bit snarky. Some of the humor is less snarky, but still amusing. So I don't always lose stuff, and what I do is because my wife moved it.
You as a dog.
Find 6 words hidden in the picture. Share with, I don't even know why they put that up there. I saw a mirror. Man, noticing my collar. Are you a preacher? Me, yes. Man, I don't believe in women preachers. Me, I am literally standing right here, so obviously that's a woman. What does it mean you don't believe in women preachers? Well, that's okay. So that's just kind of amusing, snarky, and all that kind of stuff. And this is, I have to check the sound. Oh, the sound's on. Thank you, Jim. I thought I'd share one of my discoveries on this particular page from last week. It is, Helen, terrifying, and because you asked me about this,
Yes.
It is simultaneously terrifying and amusing and really weird and kind of wonderful. Have I teased you enough?
Oh, yes. I'm on the edge of my seat.
All right. This apparently, and I didn't know. Wonderful. Who thought of?
Gives me a better perspective on clowns.
Oh, good. Well, that is what we're going for after all. All right. So that's anyhow, in the spirit of my Jed Talk, or that is to say show and tell, I just thought I'd just take a moment and share with you some of the wacky things that come my way. And so now I impose it on you.
I think you have some time on your hands. You need to be busy with
Yeah,
It gives me something to do. It gives me something to do about midnight when I should be going to bed, you know? What could I say? All right, back to something a little bit more profound, perhaps. Ginger Saunders went down to Condega early. Remind you to keep our folks from Trinity who are in Nicaragua this week in your prayers. Ginger went down early. She sent me these two pictures. This is part of why she went down early, so she could do some exploring. And the subject line on the email, which had these two pictures, says it all: the 7 gates of hell. That's what she sends me. Now let me tell you what she sends Barb.
Oh, yes. Oh.
She didn't send me those pictures, but she's decided to share that with Barb. That's where she's staying in these couple of days leading up. An Airbnb that she says she got for, I think, $17 a day.
Oh, my God. I'm totally gone next year.
You're there.
I'm there.
And then she sent me this picture yesterday. This is the group now gathered. I think that was in Managua before they made their trek to Condega. So just a reminder to hold them in your prayers as they're gone, and look forward to hearing them back. I think they're coming back on the 21st. That's my recollection of their return date. So they'll be gone again next Sunday, but the Sunday after we should expect to hear from them, see them. And who knows, maybe we'll have some more pictures to put up on the bulletin board next week. Vestry met yesterday for our annual orientation/planning day. Good looking group, huh? Kathleen took the picture. I think she missed the one I really wanted to put up where we put our little hands over everybody's heads for moose antlers, but oh well. There we are. We met, talked about what we're responsible for and what more we're concerned about. And of course we did have some food. I was very kind though. I'll tell you, in both of these pictures where people are eating, I let them know I was there and I said, now don't put it in your mouth, just let us know you're eating. We talked a little bit in the course of things about some of the bigger picture work before us. That bookmark there is one we talked about here at the forum last Sunday: Gather, Transform, Send. And I remind you, it's a model, a paradigm for looking at things. There are all kinds of different ways you could do this. This is that one. So how do you assess the life and vitality of the congregation? And that's just one tool. We talked about it last week. We'll come back and revisit that in this forum sometime later after Easter, that is to say in the Easter season. But the vestry took just a moment to talk about that and to talk about how much we want to put into that without deciding anything. We did talk about our buttons. Remind you: open doors, open hearts, open minds, open arms, open hands. We did talk just very briefly about what falls under them and who on the vestry might sort of take point in trying to connect with them, the different ministries there. And so the work that keeps our doors open, that's what we mean by open doors. Administrative stuff, building and grounds, stewardship, the foundation, that's kind of what we see. Open hearts. Use that question from the baptismal covenant: will you continue in the breaking of bread and in the prayers? Mark and Julie claimed those buttons. So that would be worship and all those supporting ministries, centering prayer today. We could probably add the labyrinth. I didn't remember to do that this time. So sorry. Will you continue in the apostles' teaching? You know, that's the open minds. Remind you what Catherine Jefferts Schroy once said about that. Faith formation for children, for adults. That would include the forum, opportunities to learn from and or with our neighbors. Jennifer McCaffrey. Where's Jennifer? There's Jennifer. Jennifer claimed that button. We got to find somebody else to take the other one. That they may be one as we are one, so open arms, the ways in which we, sort of enfold people within the life of the church here. So pastoral care and support, parish parties and potlucks and greeters. There's my favorite greeter right there. And a reminder, always wear your name tags. Good job. Most of you have name tags on this morning. We could order him a new one. Make it a big one that says we put treasurer on it. Oh, yeah. And then open hands, the ways in which we reach out to proclaim good news. And so that's Jim and Chris Bell. Outreach ministries would include Codega and Code Copy and Peace and Social Justice. Kind of all falls in that, under that umbrella of that button. Okay. Reasonably clear? Mm-hmm. All right. I've shared this quote with you all at least once before by a woman named Fleming Rutledge. Despite the good intentions of congregations that proclaim themselves as diverse, welcoming, and inclusive, the fact remains that no one and no group can be, in this life, all-embracing. There will always be someone for whom the sign the Episcopal Church welcomes you will be a mockery. There will always be some who, despite the United Methodist Church's claim to have open hearts, open minds, open doors, will find a less than open-hearted welcome. I don't take that as a reason to feel defeatist. I take it as a reason to realize there's always more we can do. We can always do what we do better. And that's, I think that's the aspiration out of that. I think she tends to be a little bit more pessimistic. After all, this book is called The Crucifixion, and she thinks there's only one way for us to get saved at the end of it all. Fair enough, but still, in the meantime, we can do better. The task always before us is to celebrate what's good about who we are and what we do, and then to ask what else do we want to do or do better, and or what more do we want to more and more. Okay, that's the hope of that. Okay, so that's just more or less an update on what the vestry's been doing while you weren't looking. We had a good day yesterday, I think. We met from about 9 a.m. Judy Warren arranged for us to have some scrumptious coffee cake at the outset. There were some other items added to that, and then Joan and Judy, or Joan and Judy? Julie.
No,
Karen.
my buddy.
Joan and Karen made sure we had
Karen who?
sandwiches to eat. And,
I just ate it.
and I made sure we kept awake all day.
No, we did good.
You did. We played good games.
And we played good games. What were you thinking?
I said to Ken, I thought the day went really fast, so it was a good day.
It did go fast because I had a lot more I wanted us to do. So, all right. Now looking ahead, what comes next? Shrove Tuesday, of course, I remind you, is this coming Tuesday. It's Mardi Gras in some places, and we'll have some Mardi Gras themes going, but really Anglicans, we do it with pancakes. For better or for worse, we do it with pancakes. So that's Tuesday. The program, as it were, for Tuesday is going to be your brackets for Lent Madness. I will have copies of the Saintly Scorecard available. There are brackets on the table over there if you want to take one home and do some work in advance. There are a few copies of the Saintly Scorecard in the back of the church as you come in. So anybody who wants to be an overachiever, you feel free to grab a bracket tonight or today, take it home with you, grab a Saintly Scorecard, or go online and do some research, and you come ready to go.
There's probably some states listed there that people would want to do research.
Oh, yes, there are people whose names I do not know, and I am sure you do not know either. There will be homework required of all of us. Now, as distinct from last year, no points awarded, nobody wins or loses on Tuesday night. It's just going to be gathering and having some fun. We will invite you, however, to play along at home. What were we talking about? Was it was the Olympics last evening. We were watching just a little bit of it, and one of the racers, we started cheering for him. You get excited about it. You start cheering for the people you want. And Barb made, referred to the old saying, you got some skin in the game. Once you have something invested in it, you care more. So we want you to fill out your brackets, get some skin in the game, and we might even actually put out a bucket, and you get to put $5 in. And at the end of it all, you win it for
It goes to outreach.
ERD. We're not going to have you win it for you. We're going to have you win it for ERD at the end of it all. But maybe we can make the contribution in your name since you won it. But take your brackets and pay attention, and we'll see who helps cheer on somebody to win the golden halo at the end. And if the pancakes aren't burnt, we'll burn something else. We'll burn palm branches. So again, bring your crosses, your palm branches. I know it makes people around here nervous when I start talking about lighting fires. But we're going to do it anyhow. And then Wednesday is Ash Wednesday. I will almost certainly come back to the...
Sorry. You miserable offender.
That's right. Remember, you are dust, but awfully lovable dust. It is. I would have sworn, and I would have actually bet money a couple of weeks ago that I have at some point in my ordained ministry celebrated Ash Wednesday on Valentine's Day before. I went looking in my files early last week to see what wisdom I had to say about those two conjoined feast days, fast days, holidays, holy days. I went back to look and I couldn't find anything, and that's it. Well, that's weird. So then I got thinking harder and I said, well, when did it happen last? Hasn't happened since 1945.
And you weren't born then.
I wasn't born there, let alone preaching then, so I have nothing in my back pocket. But you know what? I'll give you a hint right now. It probably is going to have something to do with ashes and death and mortality and love. And Lenten disciplines around love. So if you want the sermon, that's the short version of the sermon. The rest of it's just going to be sugarcoating.
So are you still giving a sermon at noon?
I'm not preaching at noon. We have a guest preacher at noon. I'll be preaching in the evening, though. So that's Lent. Again, services at 12 noon with Grace First and Nativity Lutheran churches. 7 p.m. here, our proper liturgy with the choir. We have sign-up sheets available over there. If you want to help out on Wednesday for one or both of the services, just let me know. I probably have everything I already need, so I probably don't need anybody. On the other hand, when I start looking at the details, I might realize there's a hole.
There's also a sign-up sheet over there for next month's, the spring and summer.
Meals and conversation, that's right.
Yes.
There's lots of sign-up sheets all over the place.
It will disappear.
Ashes to go. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Erica Spate talked to me about a month ago about how she and Dave Beckett, who's the pastor at Bend Methodist Church, were planning on doing Ashes to Go. Ashes to Go is something I first heard about in Chicago, and it's done in a lot of, I think it's done in big cities generally, where you have lots of business folk making commutes, and you have people parking at the bus stations, not the bus stations, the train stations.
Drive through for ashes.
Well, actually, a walk-through as you're going on your way to get on the train.
At the
And
toll
then they
booth.
have people with ashes to go, for those who don't have time to go to church. I think I don't know that I'm comfortable with it still, but I kind of, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we do that in San Diego.
They do that in San Diego.
Yes, they'll go to shopping malls and places like that, trolley stops. And a lot of the Episcopal priests in San Diego participate. They go to the campuses. There are several, large college campuses around, and
I've been hearing about it for a while now. I've resisted doing it. I'm not really comfortable with it philosophically. But on the other hand, if I've got a Methodist and a Lutheran out there doing it on the streets, I probably want to be part of that. So, Ken,
I gotta ask this question.
go ahead.
What kind of ashes?
Palm branches.
Okay, all right.
Oh my gosh, what did you think?
I was thinking,
Yeah. It is a symbol of mortality, so your
Ashes
thought
and
isn't
ash.
entirely amiss.
we had to be told.
But it is. The glory of last year's Palm Sunday
Don't let them
gets
deal with mine.
burnt up and consumed, ashes refined from it, and those are used for the symbol of mortality
okay,
on Ash Wednesday.
Thank
Yes.
you for asking.
you're welcome.
That's a good question.
So
You
anyhow,
could be outside family kitchen at 1 o'clock.
I don't know where they want to be, if they want to do it.
Well, it
It
might
seems
get done.
like it might be falling apart as an idea, so maybe it won't happen. Before you choose a Lenten discipline, I just remind you to consider what the point of it is, what you hope to get out of your Lenten observance.
120,000.
So start with the end in mind, which is probably part also of what I'm going to say on Ash Wednesday in my sermon when I talk about maybe a Lenten discipline of love. Where do you want to end up come Eastertide? So that's what you probably ought to work on in Lent.
Easter isn't the end, it's the beginning.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And there are lots of resources. This is one that just got thrown at me yesterday, actually. The folks who did Advent Word are doing something, Meeting Jesus in the Gospel of John. If you want to know more, if you haven't received one of the emails that's gone out, you don't know what this is about, and this is intriguing to you, let me know. They're going to do daily devotionals using the Gospel of John. So if you wanted to just go to be able to have something come into your inbox and you'd like more, email me. I'll forward to you what I have, and that's really about all I know about it. But it did strike me that maybe that would be of interest to somebody, so I put it up there for that reason. That's one more option. These are the options we've talked about. There's an insert in this morning's bulletin. That's what the insert says. On one side, it has some mention of some of the things you do, and a rule for Lent. Again, I remind you, as you think about what you do, think about why you're doing it. Just to feel bad about yourself, I promise you, isn't a good enough reason. To be more loving at the end of Lent as you go into that new beginning, that would be a noble aspiration. What would it look like for you to practice that during Lent? There's Wednesdays at Trinity. It's being organized just a little bit differently this year. It's also happening on Wednesday, not Thursday, which is also different this year. All of which I remind you is a bit of an experiment. So if it doesn't work, we'll do it differently next year. We're just trying something different. Eucharist at 5, a little bit earlier than we did it last year. Simple supper at 5:45. We're looking for 4 people each Wednesday to bring soup. Kathy, hi Kathy, good timing.
Oh, good.
Kathy is going to be organizing the setup of things, but she's looking for 4 people to bring soup each of those Wednesdays. And then if you want to bring something else, some bread or something, cookies? I don't care. I don't care. If you want to give up cookies, don't eat the cookies that are put out. But don't, if you bring cookies, somebody might eat them. Yes, ma'am.
How much soup?
I think initially my suggestion would be a big enough pot for maybe as many as 10. So a pretty big pot initially. And I just realistically, as we go through Lent, we'll watch how the numbers go. But historically, people seem to fall off as we get later. So maybe by the end of it, if you're bringing soup for one of the last Wednesdays, you might only have to bring soup for 6 if you're 1 of 4 people, because that may be all we need. But we'll have to monitor it. There was a...
And that's my job, right?
That's your job, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So if you want to sign up, you can do it there. There's another sign-up sheet in the church, and there's one on the table over there as well. Years and years ago, I read a really wonderful article about planning. This isn't the 7 Ps. This is about planning and implementing a plan. And the short version of it is, I think I can get the short version out. The short version is, you can spend years planning something, but you never really know until you open a donut shop. So you could spend years doing studies and deciding what kinds of donuts people like and what your mix of donuts ought to be in your display case. But you'll learn more on the first day of operating what you really need than you did in all the years of market research that led up to it. So sometimes you just got to jump in and see what happens. And that's inevitably what's going to happen with our Wednesdays program here. Remind you that we also have the ERD, Episcopal Relief and Development daily devotionals. There are lots of copies of those available. They're in the table here. They're on the entrance of the church as you come in this morning. And there will also be the hope chests. None of them look like that, I think. But we have Lenten offering boxes, and we have other little boxes that are clear for ERD. We ask that you return them not on Easter. It's one of the flaws with the program. I think it all assumes that people are putting in a little, change or dollar bills or whatever all through the Lenten season, and then on Easter Sunday they're going to come and bring them back. And that's really about the last thing I want you to do, because all that's going to do is announce to everybody who doesn't come all of Lent that they don't belong, because the people who belong brought in their boxes. And that's the last message I want to give to people who show up on Easter Sunday. I want them to hear only that they too are welcome here, and not that they're somehow relegated to second-class status because they haven't seen them since last Christmas. Okay. And then, of course, I remind you, yes, there is Lent madness, and it is remarkably silly, and yet somehow, strangely, a bit like the clown, it works. There is a countdown. If you look over here, 3 days, 22 hours, 12 minutes, 53, 52, 50. There's a countdown till Lent Madness really starts. This voting won't start on Ash Wednesday. These people, as silly as they get, are at least observant about Ash Wednesday. Ash Wednesday is done, and they don't start the silliness till Thursday. So, and they too caught up on the fact that Ash Wednesday and Valentine's Day coincide. So they're suggesting little candies that say things like sinner and repent and so on and so forth. All right. We learn more on the website, lentmadness.org. I did remember the labyrinth. This was from last December's. It won't look quite the same. Well, the labyrinth will, but the decor won't.
Christmas trees.
Christmas trees will not be there. The Christmas trees are long gone. But the sanctuary will be there. It will be open this Saturday from 9 to 3. Is that what I remember?
No, not 9, 10.
10 to 3.
9, it's too hard to get a place.
Okay. There will probably be people working, setting up about 9. Well, a little after 9. Parking is tight. So anyhow, the labyrinth will be out. Really a nice way for you to sort of walk quietly, as it were, into Lent. And then the women's retreat.
Yay.
Wave at us, Jane. Jane is. We're not looking. Okay.
Hi, Jane.
Looking ahead, because I have to look ahead, so I invite you to do so as well. Pat Bell, our bishop, will be here on April 29th. And what occurs when the bishop comes is people are presented for confirmation, reception, and reaffirmation. So I want to spend actually just a little bit teasing out the differences, just to make sure you're clear. Confirmation, and these definitions have changed a little bit, even since the current prayer book was written, but I think more and more this is clearly how it's being used. Confirmation is that adult profession of faith in front of a bishop, particularly for those who are baptized as infants and children. So if you were baptized in the Episcopal Church or the Methodist Church or the Presbyterian Church as an infant, and that was kind of as much as you did, and you're now finding yourself here at Trinity, you'd be an ideal person to be presented for confirmation. Okay? Reception is for those who are already confirmed in another tradition. Somebody who's made an adult profession of faith in some other faith tradition, but you now consider yourself part of what Michael Curry calls the Episcopal branch of the Jesus movement. We used to say that if you were Roman Catholic and confirmed already by a bishop, that we wouldn't reconfirm you, you should be received. But we used to say if you didn't come out of that tradition, if you were, say, a Methodist or a Presbyterian, we used to say you were never properly confirmed. And so for that reason, we would make a distinction between people based on their previous religious tradition. So again, former Roman Catholics, they get presented for reception. Former Presbyterians and Methodists and Lutherans, we would have to have them reconfirmed, even though they had been confirmed in their own traditions. Or, even more so, a little less clear, say Baptists, who were baptized as an adult because that's how they do it in that tradition, at least as they understand it. They made that adult profession when they got baptized. And we'd say, oh no, you've got to be confirmed now. More and more what we're saying is, if you've already been an adult believer in another church, by whatever sacramental understandings that church had, if you've already been an adult, but you want to mark the fact that you really think of yourself now as Episcopalian, we shouldn't reconfirm you. We shouldn't somehow say that that adult profession you made previously doesn't count. We should receive you. And so that's a bit of a shift, and it's kind of significant. But it's a little bit different than probably what most of you were taught if you were part of the Episcopal Church for a while. And then there's reaffirmation. And the way I describe it there is that if you find yourself in a new place in your spiritual life, you've been already confirmed and or received, you've already done that adult thing, but you find yourself in a new place and you want to express that somehow, then a reaffirmation would be very much an appropriate thing for you to consider. So those are the three options before you, and I really am looking to find out who's out there wanting to do that. The hints of what they mean are suggested by the prayers that the bishop says. They're a little bit different, each of them, for those different rites. Two prayers that get said with those being confirmed. Both referring back implicitly to baptism and the life of the Holy Spirit begun then and now continued. For reception, it's, again, the words are different. We recognize you as a member of the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, and we receive you into the fellowship of this communion. And then for reaffirmation, may the Holy Spirit, who has begun a good work in you, direct and uphold you in the service of Christ and His kingdom. So, slightly different words for those different prayers to hint at what the distinctions are between those three. What I want to draw some attention to is, and I was hoping Betsy might be here so I could refer back to her, but she's not. But Peace and Social Justice have talked about a vow of nonviolence. Peggy, I don't know if you've been a part of any of those conversations. Okay. The Peace and Social Justice Commission has been having this conversation at some level for a little while. And what that means isn't entirely clear. A vow of nonviolence. Jesus did teach us, blessed are the peacemakers. He did teach us things like if someone's, slaps you on one cheek, turn the other, give the other. So, struggling with what that means in today's world is certainly a calling, and how that might be expressed in a vow of nonviolence is being pondered. It might be, as Betsy's explained it to me, something that people making that vow would say, I'm going to make that vow for a season, for a time, or for the lifetime. But it seems to me that if they are, in essence, taking their Christian faith seriously in this new way, that it deserves some kind of recognition. And so I've told her that I'll talk to the bishop about having them presented for that. And we'll learn more about what that might mean and what it might look like. And if you want to know more about that, I'll refer you immediately and directly to Betsy, who would be thrilled to talk to you about that some more. So this is really where I want to end. We have those things happening. I think that was my last slide. Yep. Those things happening when the bishop's here on April 29th. If any of that pertains to you or to someone you know here at Trinity, please have them speak with me at their earliest convenience. I haven't figured out how oh, there's Betsy. Hi, Betsy. I haven't figured out how we will do that preparation yet. I think mostly because I don't know who's out there that needs it. There's different ways we can do it. I've done some adult classes, sort of outside of the normal routines of things. I could do that again. There are some online resources I could refer you to. Betsy, of course, is happy to talk to you about, again, a vow of nonviolence and what preparation for that, making that kind of a vow might look like. So if that's pertinent to any of you or to someone you know, please have them speak with me and or Betsy. Yeah.
When we make our baptismal vows and when we reaffirm those very often in the church setting, isn't that what we're saying?
Oh, I think it's implicit for sure. I think it's implicit for sure, which is why it seems very, very appropriate to mark that in a way. But it's already there. You're quite right. Yeah. Will you proclaim the good news of God in Christ? Will you proclaim by word and example, word and deed, the good news of God in Christ? Will you respect the dignity of every human being? Will you work for justice and peace? Yeah. I mean, those things are all there from the get-go. Wrestling with them, articulating them in new ways, consciously, is a high calling indeed. So, as Helen prepares to put things away, I was going to lastly just draw your attention to the fact that 6 days of creation are over here.
5 and 6 are already taken down,
But the first 4 days are here. At the 10:15 service here in a little bit, we will dedicate these pieces of art, and we're looking forward to that. So if you haven't yet seen them, they'll be out after the 10:15 service for you to admire some more before they get installed in the hallway outside the chapel soon.